The ultrasound photo fell from her trembling hands onto our anniversary dinner table. The glossy thermal paper landed face up between our wine glasses, still full, still untouched, and I watched the image come into focus. A curved bean shape, grainy black and white. Timestamp, 7:42 a.m. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. I should have smiled, should have reached across the table, should have done what husbands do when their wives tell them they're going to be fathers. Instead, I watched her face, watched the way her eyes couldn't meet mine, watched her hands shake as they hovered over the photo, like she wanted to take it back. 8 weeks, she said. Her voice cracked on the second word. I found out 3 days ago. 3 days. She'd known for 3 days and hadn't told me. The anniversary card I'd spent an hour choosing that morning sat between us, still sealed in its envelope. I'd written something about 7 years together and forever to go. The words felt like they belonged to a different man now, a man who existed 10 seconds ago. Sarah? My voice came out flat, distant, like I was talking to a stranger. Why do you look terrified? She pulled her hands back into her lap. I could see her fingers twisting together, that thing she does when she's about to say something that will hurt. Because, she said. Then she stopped, started again. Because I don't know if it's yours. The restaurant reservation was for 7:30. I'd made it 6 months ago, our favorite place, the table by the window, but we weren't going anywhere now. Sarah reached into her purse. Her hands were still shaking. What came out next wasn't an apology. It was a hotel receipt. Then another, 4 receipts total. Thin paper, faded blue ink, hotel logo raised slightly. The dates were circled in red pen. Her handwriting. March 15th, April 3rd, April 22nd, May 7th. The amounts got higher each time. $247, $189, $247 again. $312. I need you to understand something, she said. It didn't start as 6 months. The math was simple, March to now. The affair has been going on for 6 months. She nodded, just once, sharp, like the motion hurt her neck. I picked up the first receipt, held it up to the light. The paper felt thin as tissue. I could almost see through to the betrayal beneath. The hotel was downtown, 20 minutes from our house, 20 minutes from the bed we shared. Who is he? His name is Marcus. He works in my building. We started having coffee after meetings and then she stopped. It doesn't matter how it started, but it did matter. Every detail mattered now. Every coffee. Every late night at the office I'd believed it was work. Every text message I'd never thought to question. Does he know? I asked. About the baby? Yes. And? She looked down at her hands. He doesn't know if it's his either. The wine bottle sat between us, unopened. I'd brought it up from the cellar that morning. A Bordeaux we'd been saving for something special. 7 years. The traditional gift for a 7th anniversary is copper, but Sarah had always said that was ridiculous. We'll make our own traditions, she'd said when we got married. I guess this was our new tradition. Infidelity and confusion. Hotel receipts instead of copper. I need to ask you something. My voice was still flat. Clinical. Like I was conducting an interview. And I need the truth. Okay. Do you love him? The pause before she answered told me everything. 2 seconds, maybe 3. But in those seconds, I watched our entire marriage rewrite itself in my head. Every I love you, every vacation, every morning she'd rolled over and kissed me before getting out of bed. All of it suddenly felt like a rough draft. I think so, she whispered. I don't know. The anniversary card sat there, unsigned. If you've ever had your world shatter in a single sentence, just drop "I understand" in the comments. You're not alone in this. I moved through the house like a detective. That's what I became in the 3 days after she told me. Not her husband. A detective. Every drawer, Every pocket, every corner of our life together suddenly felt like a crime scene. I found the watch in her jewelry drawer, silver tag Hoyer, heavy in my palm, cool metal still ticking softly. There was a slight scratch on the crystal face, an engraving on the back. My hand started shaking when I turned it over. To my soulmate, all was M. The date underneath, February 14th. 3 months ago, Valentine's Day. The day she'd told me she had to work late. The day I'd waited up with roses and takeout from the Italian place she loves. The day she'd come home at 11 and kissed my forehead and said she was exhausted. M. Marcus. The watch ticked in my palm. Each second sounded like a lie. I found the credit card statements next, buried in the filing cabinet under insurance documents. Places I didn't recognize. Charges that didn't match her explanations. A lingerie store, $47 on March 20th. She'd never worn anything new for me. A restaurant in the Pearl District, $132 on April 10th. She'd told me she was at a work dinner that night. The text messages were backed up on her old phone, the one she'd replaced last month. I found it in the garage in a box labeled electronics to recycle. The screen was cracked, but it still turned on. 347 messages between Sarah and a contact labeled M. Work. I read every single one. March 15th, 10:47 p.m. I can't stop thinking about today. April 3rd, 6:23 a.m. My husband asked where I got this perfume. I told him it was a sample. I'm a terrible liar, but I'm wearing it anyway because it reminds me of you. April 22nd, 11:15 p.m. He's asleep next to me, and all I can think about is being in that hotel room with you. May the 7th. I told you something today I've never told anyone. I think I'm falling in love with you. The messages blurred together. Dates, times, details I didn't need but couldn't stop reading. Evidence of a life I hadn't known existed. Evidence of a version of my wife I'd never met. At the bottom of the drawer, underneath the watch and wrapped in tissue paper, I found a gift she'd never given him. Men's cufflinks, expensive ones, engraved with his initials. She'd chickened out. The watch was still ticking. I set it on the dresser and went to find her. She was in the living room, sitting on the couch with her journal open in her lap. The leather-bound one I'd given her for Christmas 3 years ago. The pages were dog-eared, ink smudged from what looked like tears. A pressed flower marked a page near the middle, a daisy from our trip to the coast last spring. "I want you to read it," she said when I walked in. "All of it. I don't want to explain anymore. I can't. Just read it." The journal smelled like her perfume and something acrid, lavender and guilt. I sat across from her, not next to her, across, like we were negotiating something. She'd bookmarked March 15th. I opened to that page. March 15th. I think I'm falling in love with someone else. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't want this. But Marcus looks at me the way James used to look at me before we got comfortable, before we became roommates who occasionally have sex. Marcus makes me feel like I'm still someone worth chasing. I turned the page. March 23rd. I told James I was going to a work conference this weekend. I'm actually meeting Marcus at his family's cabin. This is the worst thing I've ever done. This is also the most alive I've felt in 3 years. Another page. April 22nd. I told Marcus about the baby today. He cried. He said he wants to leave his wife. He said we could do this together. I didn't tell him I don't know if it's his. I didn't tell him that James and I had sex on March 10th, right before everything with Marcus became physical. I'm a coward. I'm in love with 2 men, and I don't deserve either of them. The journal felt heavier than it should have, like the words had weight. "He's married?" I asked. Sarah nodded. "Does his wife know?" "No." I kept reading, page after page of my wife falling in love with someone else while I made her breakfast and asked about her day, and believed every single lie she told me. May 15th. James asked me tonight if I was happy. We were watching TV and he just turned to me and asked. Out of nowhere, I said yes. He smiled and went back to his show. I went to the bathroom and cried for 20 minutes. The tissue box on the coffee table was empty. She'd gone through the whole thing. I looked up at her. She was watching me, waiting. Her hands were folded in her lap now, still, resigned. Do you love him? I asked again. I'd asked 3 days ago, and she'd said, I think so. I needed to hear it again, needed to confirm that the pause wasn't a fluke. This time the pause was longer, 5 seconds, maybe more, and in that silence, I understood something. She was choosing which man to hurt with her answer. I love who I am when I'm with him, she finally said. I love how he makes me feel. But I love you too. I love our life. I love... That's not an answer. She closed the journal, set it on the couch between us like evidence in a trial. My parents almost divorced when I was 10, she said. My dad had an affair. My mom stayed. They worked through it. 32 years later, they're still together. And my mom always tells me the same thing. We don't leave. That's not what our family does. We don't leave. There it was. The inheritance. The family rule. The reason she looked so terrified when she told me. Your mom is a saint, I said. I'm not. I know. Her voice was barely a whisper. But I need you to be. The wedding photo on the mantel watched us from across the room. 2 people smiling. 2 people who had promised forever. 2 people who didn't exist anymore. Marcus worked in commercial real estate. His office was in the same building as Sarah's. 17th floor, corner office, probably expensive shoes. I found his last name on the company website. Marcus Brennan, married, 2 kids. Looked like the kind of guy who gave firm handshakes and belonged to a country club. I met him in the parking garage after work. Waited by his car, a black Audi, predictably. When he came out of the elevator, he saw me and stopped walking. You're James, he said. Not a question. And you're the man who's been sleeping with my wife. He looked around. A coworker was getting into a car 3 spaces down. Marcus waited until the engine started and the car pulled away before speaking. She told me you were abusive, he said, that she was leaving you anyway, that the baby was definitely mine. The words hit like a fist. Abusive? Emotionally, that you ignored her, that you hadn't touched her in months, that she felt invisible in her own home. I'd made her coffee every morning for 7 years. I'd listened to every work story, every complaint, every dream. I'd held her hair when she was sick and planned surprise trips and told her I loved her every single day. And you believed her? He shrugged. Why wouldn't I? People don't lie about that. But Sarah had lied about everything. To both of us. She'd created 2 separate men in 2 separate stories so she could have what she wanted without consequences. I pulled out my phone, showed him the text messages I'd photographed, the ones where she talked about me, the ones where she said my husband with affection, the ones that proved I wasn't the villain she'd painted. Marcus read them. His face changed, tight, angry. She lied to me, he said. Welcome to the club. I handed him a printed copy of the hotel receipts. I'll take a paternity test, I said. But so should you, because one of us is about to become a father to a child we didn't ask for. He looked at the receipts, then at me. She told me you were abusive, he said again, like he needed to hear it twice, like he needed to justify what he'd done. I'm not, I said. I'm just the man whose wife couldn't tell him the truth. The parking garage was cold, concrete and fluorescent lights. Marcus's wedding ring caught the light when he handed back my phone. I have 2 kids, he said quietly. My wife can't know about this. That's not my problem. I'll take the test, he said, but I'm not leaving my family. Sarah knows that. I told her from the beginning. I turned to walk away, then stopped. Did you love her? I asked. Or was she just convenient? The pause before his answer told me everything. The lawyer's office smelled like leather and old paper. dark wood furniture, diplomas on the wall. A woman named Patricia Chen, who'd been recommended by my sister. She'd been through a divorce last year. Her husband had an affair with a coworker. She said Patricia was the best in the city. Patricia laid out my options like she was presenting a business proposal, calm, professional, like she did this every day, which I guess she did. Divorce is straightforward given the adultery, she said. Oregon is a no-fault state, but documented infidelity helps with custody and asset division. She slid a stack of papers across her desk. However, there's a complication with the pregnancy. The paternity? That, yes, but also the timing. In Oregon, if you're married when the child is born, you're the legal father, even if you're not the biological father. The state presumes paternity based on marriage. The calculator on her desk showed numbers I didn't want to think about. Asset division, child support, legal fees. What if the DNA test proves the child isn't mine? You can contest paternity, but it's complicated. If your name is on the birth certificate and you've acted as the father, even for a short time, the courts may still hold you financially responsible. The prenup we'd never signed felt like a mistake now. Sarah and I had been so sure, so in love. We'd laughed at the idea of needing legal protection from each other. How long does a divorce take? I asked. 6 to 12 months typically, but if she's due in December... Patricia checked the calendar. The baby will be born before the divorce is final. I was trapped, legally, biologically, emotionally. Patricia must have seen the look on my face because she softened slightly. Mr. Morrison, I've been doing this for 23 years. I've seen every kind of betrayal, every kind of heartbreak, and I'll tell you what I tell all my clients. You have choices, but none of them are easy. No quick divorce, no simple answers, just impossible choices. The blank divorce paperwork sat on her desk, waiting for my signature. I didn't sign it, not yet. Sarah asked me to come to the 12-week ultrasound. She called 3 days after I'd met with Patricia. I was staying at my friend Derek's apartment, a temporary arrangement that felt increasingly permanent. The call came at 7 in the morning. I almost didn't answer. James! Her voice was small, careful. The ultrasound is Thursday at 10. I know I don't have the right to ask, but will you come? I should have said no, should have told her to take Marcus, should have protected myself. I'll be there, I heard myself say. The waiting room was full of couples, happy couples, holding hands, comparing baby name books, looking at each other like they shared a secret the rest of the world didn't know. We sat 2 chairs apart. Sarah kept glancing at me. I kept my eyes on the magazine in my lap, not reading a word. When they called her name, she stood up, waited. I followed her down the hallway like we were strangers who happened to be going the same direction. The ultrasound technician was young, cheerful. She didn't notice the tension in the room, or if she did, she was professionally trained to ignore it. Okay, Mom, let's see this baby, she said, squeezing gel onto Sarah's exposed stomach. The screen flickered to life, gray shapes, movement. Then suddenly, there it was. Not a bean anymore, a baby, arms, legs, a head tilted to the side like it was sleeping. Oh, Sarah whispered. Her hand reached out, found mine before I could pull away. Her grip was tight, desperate. The technician moved the wand, clicked buttons, measured things I didn't understand. Then she turned up the volume on a speaker I hadn't noticed. The heartbeat filled the room. Fast, strong, perfect. 158 beats per minute, the technician said. Right where we want to be. Sarah's hand tightened on mine. I looked at her. She was crying, silent tears running down into her hair. She has your heartbeat, Sarah whispered to me. Not to the room, not to the technician, to me. Fast, strong, just like yours. I didn't pull my hand away. I wanted to. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to let go. But I couldn't, because for 10 seconds, maybe less, nothing else mattered except that sound, that impossible, perfect rhythm. The technician smiled at us. "Would you like to know the gender?" Sarah looked at me, really looked at me, and I realized I had a choice to make right then, to be in this or to be out, to know or to protect myself from knowing, to be a father or to be a man whose wife betrayed him. "Yes," I said, "we want to know." The technician moved the wand again, clicked, measured. "It's a girl," she said. "Congratulations." Sarah was still holding my hand. I was still letting her. When we left the office, she had 3 new ultrasound images printed on glossy paper. She tried to hand one to me. I took it, folded it carefully, put it in my wallet behind my driver's license where I kept the photo of us from our wedding day. In the parking lot, she turned to me. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I know you didn't have to." "We don't leave," I said quietly. Not to her, to myself, to the baby, to whatever version of family we were about to become. "We don't leave." She understood what I meant, that I wasn't leaving the child, but I might be leaving her. Both families got involved after the ultrasound. My parents wanted to meet. Her parents demanded to meet. Everyone had opinions. Everyone had advice. Everyone thought they knew what I should do. We met at Sarah's parents' house on a Sunday afternoon. Neutral territory, except it wasn't neutral at all. Every wall had photos of Sarah's family, 40 years of marriage, 3 kids, 8 grandchildren, a legacy of staying together no matter what. My parents arrived first. My dad shook Sarah's hand like she was someone he used to know. My mom hugged her, brief, polite, nothing like the hugs she used to give her daughter-in-law. My sister Rachel came with them. She'd gotten divorced last year after finding out her husband had been cheating for 3 years. She hadn't said a word to Sarah since I'd told her what happened. Sarah's parents were already setting out coffee and cookies, like this was a normal family gathering. Her father, Frank, kept trying to make eye contact with me. Her mother, Linda, kept touching Sarah's arm, protective, maternal. "Thank you all for coming," Frank said when we were all seated. The living room felt too small. We wanted to talk about what happens next, for Sarah, for the baby, for James. "What happens next," my sister said, "is James gets a good lawyer and gets out." Linda stiffened. "Rachel, this is a family matter. We need to think about what's best for everyone." "What's best for everyone?" Rachel's voice went sharp. "Sarah had an affair for 6 months with a married man while James was home being the perfect husband, and now she's pregnant and doesn't even know who the father is. What part of that sounds like we should be protecting her?" "Rachel." My dad's voice was quiet, firm. "That's enough." But Rachel wasn't done. She pulled something out of her purse, her own divorce papers. "I left my husband when I found out he cheated. Everyone told me to think about it, to go to counseling, to remember our vows. You know what happened? I stayed for 3 more months trying to fix something that was already broken. And those 3 months almost destroyed me." She looked at me. "Don't make my mistake, James. Self-respect matters more than staying." Frank cleared his throat. "With all due respect, Rachel, every marriage is different. Linda and I—" He stopped, looked at his wife. "We've been through our own difficulties. We understand what it takes to forgive." "What kind of difficulties?" my mom asked. The room went quiet. Linda stood up, walked to a bookshelf, pulled down a family photo album I'd seen 100 times. She opened it to a page marked with a ribbon bookmark. Their 40th anniversary party. Everyone smiling. 30 years ago, Linda said, Frank had an affair with a woman he worked with. It lasted 8 months. I found out when she called our house. I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old and nowhere to go. My mother told me the same thing I'm telling Sarah now. We don't leave. That's not what our family does. We don't leave. I looked at Sarah. She was staring at her mother like she'd never seen her before. "You knew?" Sarah asked. "You knew about this and you never told me?" "You were too young to understand," Linda said. And it wasn't your burden to carry. Frank was looking at his hands. I spent the next 30 years trying to earn back your mother's trust, he said quietly. Some days I still don't think I deserve it. But we stayed, we worked through it, and our family survived. My father had been silent through all of this. He'd been sitting in the corner chair, hands folded, face unreadable. Now he stood up. Son, he said, I need to tell you something about your mother and me. My mother's face went pale. Don't, she said. He needs to know, my father said. Then he turned to me. When you were 2 years old, I had a brief affair with someone from my office. It lasted 6 weeks. Your mother found out. We almost divorced. She chose to stay. And I spent every day since then trying to be the man she deserved. The room tilted. My entire childhood recontextualized in a single sentence. Every happy memory suddenly felt like it had been built on a foundation of forgiveness I never knew existed. Here's my question for you. When family pressure conflicts with your boundaries, do you listen to tradition or protect yourself? Comments are open. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because, my father said, you need to know that forgiveness is possible, but also that it costs something. Your mother paid that cost. She carried that weight, and I can see in her face right now that she still carries it. 33 years later, my mother was crying, quiet tears she tried to hide. I don't regret staying, she said, but I wouldn't wish the choice on anyone. I moved my things out of Derek's apartment and into a place of my own. 1 bedroom, 7th floor, view of nothing. The suitcase I'd packed 3 weeks ago was still only half full. Leaving hadn't felt real when I had grabbed clothes and toiletries in a rush. It felt real now. The morning routine changed. I made 1 coffee now, 1 bowl of cereal, 1 of everything. The apartment stayed quiet. No one to ask about my day. No one to share meals with. Just me in the silence. Sarah and I worked out a system. She'd text me updates about the baby, measurements from doctor appointments, vitamin regimens, the name she was thinking about. Emma. I'd respond with short answers. That's good. Sounds healthy. Emma's nice. 3 weeks into the separation, Derek came over with beer and takeout. Sat on my mostly empty couch and watched me move through the apartment like a ghost. You look like hell, he said. Thanks. When's the last time you slept? I didn't answer because I didn't know. Days blurred together. I went to work, came home, stared at walls. The ultrasound photo in my wallet felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. You still love her, Derek said. Not a question. I hate what she did, I said. I hate that I don't know if the baby is mine. I hate that she destroyed everything. But yeah, I still love her, which makes me an idiot. It makes you human. At 2 a.m, my phone rang. Sarah. I almost didn't answer. Then I saw she called twice before and I'd slept through it. James! Her voice was panicked, breathless. I'm at the hospital. Something's wrong. I was in my car in 30 seconds. The emergency room at 2:30 a.m. was fluorescent bright and too quiet. A nurse directed me to Sarah's room. She was in a bed, connected to monitors, her hand pressed against her stomach, like she could hold the baby in place through force of will. What happened? I asked. Bleeding, she said, and cramping. They're checking to make sure... Her voice broke. They're checking to make sure the baby's okay. I sat in the chair next to her bed. Not on the bed, just near it. A doctor came in, young, competent looking. She glanced at me. Are you the father? The question hung in the air like a trap. I didn't know how to answer. The legal answer was yes. The biological answer was maybe. The emotional answer was too complicated for a hospital room at 2:30 in the morning. Yes, I said. The doctor checked Sarah's vitals, read the monitors, asked questions about pain levels and timing. Then she did an ultrasound right there in the room. The same sound we'd heard 2 weeks ago filled the space. Fast. Strong. Perfect. The baby's fine, the doctor said. Heartbeat is strong. No signs of distress. Sometimes cramping and light bleeding happen in the second trimester. It's scary, but it doesn't always mean something's wrong. We'll keep you for observation for a few hours, but I think you can go home this morning." Sarah started crying. Relief tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you." The doctor left. A nurse came in to adjust Sarah's IV. She smiled at us like we were a normal couple. Like this was a normal scare. Like I belonged here. "You're lucky," the nurse said to Sarah. "Not every woman has a husband who shows up at 2 a.m. Sarah's hand found mine on the bed rail. She squeezed. I squeezed back. As she fell asleep holding my hand, exhausted from panic and relief, her phone screen lit up on the bedside table. A text message. I saw the name before I could look away. Marcus. Is it mine? Not, is the baby okay? Not, are you okay? Just, is it mine? I pulled my hand away from Sarah's, stepped back from the bed. The hospital bracelet on her wrist had her name printed in block letters, and underneath, emergency contact James Morrison, spouse. I was still her emergency contact, still her spouse, still the person she called when she was terrified, but only because the other man was at home with his wife and kids, probably asleep, worried about his own liability. The night nurse came back to check Sarah's vitals. She was still sleeping. "She'll be okay," the nurse whispered to me. "Both of them will." I nodded, left the room, sat in the waiting area with bad coffee and worse thoughts. At 6 a.m., Sarah woke up, texted me. "Where are you?" "Waiting room," I texted back. "Will you come back?" I did, because despite everything, I couldn't leave her alone in a hospital room scared for her, for the baby's life. But when I walked back in, I didn't sit on the bed. I stayed in the chair. "We need to make a decision," I said, "about the paternity test." The genetic counselor's office was warmer than the hospital, softer lighting, comfortable chairs, a wall of certificates, and a bookshelf full of medical texts. Dr. Yolanda Martinez had been doing this for 15 years. Sarah and I sat across from her desk, still not touching. Amniocentesis is the gold standard for prenatal paternity testing, Dr. Martinez explained. We insert a thin needle through the abdominal wall into the amniotic sac and extract a small amount of fluid. The fetal cells in that fluid can be tested against both potential fathers' DNA. She pulled out a medical pamphlet, diagrams, statistics, risk factors. "The accuracy is over 99%, she continued. "Results take 7 to 10 days. However, there is a risk. About 1 in 300 to 500 procedures result in miscarriage." Sarah's hand went to her stomach. Protective, instinctive. 1 in 300, I repeated. "Yes, it's small, but it's not zero. That's why many couples choose to wait until after birth for paternity testing. It's safer for the baby." "But if we wait," I said, "I'm the legal father regardless. The state assumes paternity based on marriage." Dr. Martinez nodded. "That's correct, which is why this is such a difficult decision." Sarah's best friend had called her last night. I'd heard part of the conversation through the bathroom door. "Wait until she's born," her friend had said. "What if something goes wrong? What if you lose her trying to get answers? Is knowing worth that risk?" But I needed to know. Not knowing was killing me every single day. Every ultrasound, every kick Sarah described, every moment I let myself feel connected was a moment I might be falling in love with another man's child. "I want to do it," I said. Sarah turned to me. "James," not her words, not her tears, just the truth we'll finally know. Dr. Martinez slid consent forms across the desk. "You both need to understand. This is elective. The baby is healthy. This test is purely for paternity determination. If something happens during the procedure, you need to be prepared for that outcome." Sarah picked up the pen. Her hand was shaking. "If something happens to the baby during this test," she said, looking at me, "I'll never forgive myself, or you." "I know," I said, "but I can't be a father to a child that might not be mine." I can't spend the next 6 months falling in love with someone else's daughter. Her signature was shaky when she signed. Uncertain. Mine was firm. Decisive. We scheduled the procedure for the following Tuesday. If you were me, would you demand the truth now, even with a 1% miscarriage risk, or wait until birth and live with doubt for months? A or B? Let me know. The waiting room became my second home. Tuesday came and went. The procedure took 20 minutes. Sarah was bruised after, tender, scared. The doctor said everything went fine, but we wouldn't know for sure until the results came back in 7 to 10 days. Day 1, Sarah texted me updates. No bleeding, baby's moving normally. Day 2, I called her. How are you feeling? Scared. You? Same. Day 3, we didn't talk. I stared at the calendar on my refrigerator. 7 days, 6 days, 5 days. Day 4, my therapist, a woman named Dr. Reeves I'd started seeing after the separation, asked me what I would do if the baby was mine. Be a father, I said. And if she's not yours? I didn't answer. Day 5. Sarah called crying. Not about the test, just crying. I listened, didn't offer comfort, didn't offer solutions, just listened. Day 6. Marcus texted me. Have you gotten results yet? I didn't respond. Day 7. Nothing. No call from the lab. Dr. Martinez had said 7 to 10 days. 7 was the minimum. Today was day 7. Day 8. Still nothing. I took a sick day from work, stayed home, stared at my phone like I could will it to ring. Day 9. The envelope arrived at my apartment at 3 p.m. Return address, Gene Tech Solutions. Heavy envelope. Official seal. Inside was everything I needed to know and everything I was terrified to learn. I held it for 20 minutes. Didn't open it, just held it. Then I drove to Sarah's apartment. She was sitting on the front steps when I pulled up. Like she'd been waiting. Like she'd known today was the day. It came, she said when I got out of the car. I can't open it alone. We went inside, sat on her couch. The envelope between us like a bomb. Before we open it, Sarah said, I need you to know something. Whatever it says, I love you. I loved you through all of this. I never stopped loving you. She stopped, started again. I just forgot how to be faithful to you. I didn't respond. What was there to say? I picked up the envelope, tore it open. 3 pages inside, legal letterhead, barcodes, test identification numbers, and at the bottom of page 2, highlighted in yellow by someone at the lab, alleged father, James Morrison, probability of paternity, 99.97%. Conclusion, James Morrison cannot be excluded as the biological father of the fetus. The probability of paternity is greater than 99.97%. Sarah grabbed the paper from my hands. Read it again. Then she looked at page 3. Alleged father, Marcus Brennan. Sample status, azoospermia confirmed. 0 sperm count detected. Conclusion, Marcus Brennan is excluded as the biological father. Paternity impossible. The affair partner couldn't have children. Had never been able to have children. Which meant all of this, all the doubt, all the fear, all the agony, had been over a baby that was always mine. Sarah was crying. You're the father, she said. James, you're the father. I should have felt relief, should have felt joy, should have pulled her into my arms and celebrated that Emma was mine. Instead, I looked at her, really looked at her, at the woman who'd lied to 2 men, who'd created a fantasy where she could have everything she wanted without consequences, who'd put me through months of hell over a question that had an answer all along. I know, I said quietly, but does that mean I have to be your husband? She stopped crying, stared at me. Does DNA erase what you did? I continued. Does it make the affair go away? Does it make the lies disappear? Does it mean I'm supposed to forget that you fell in love with someone else? James, I'm Emma's father, I said. That's not a choice anymore. That's biology. But being your husband, that's still a choice. And I don't know if I can choose that. She collapsed, folded into herself on the couch. The sobs weren't gentle. They were the sound of something breaking. I picked up the DNA report, folded it carefully, put it in my jacket pocket next to the ultrasound photo. Then I left. Was I wrong to say that? Even if it was true, would you have said the same or something different? Comments, be honest. The mediation took place in a conference room with gray walls and a long table. Sarah's lawyer on one side, my lawyer, Patricia, on the other. A mediator named Robert Chen at the head, neutral, professional, treating our family like a business transaction that needed to be dissolved. We're here to establish a parenting plan, Robert said. Custody arrangements, child support, decision-making authority. The goal is to create a framework that serves the best interests of the child. The child, not Emma, not our daughter, the child. Like she was theoretical, like she wasn't real yet. Patricia laid out papers in front of me. Custody schedules, financial calculations, legal terminology that turned love into percentages and parenting into a spreadsheet. Sarah's lawyer, a man named David Park, slid a document across the table. My client is proposing primary physical custody with standard visitation for Mr. Morrison, every other weekend, 1 evening per week, alternating holidays. I looked at the numbers. 4 days a month, 48 days a year. I'd be a part-time father to my own daughter because her mother couldn't stay faithful. No, I said. Patricia looked at me. James, no, I repeated. I'm not doing every other weekend. I'm not being a guest in my daughter's life. Sarah was crying again. Quiet tears that made her lawyer pass her tissues. What are you proposing? Robert asked. 50-50 custody, I said. Week on, week off. Equal parenting time. Equal decision-making. Emma doesn't lose a parent because we couldn't make our marriage work. David Park looked at Sarah. She nodded. My client agrees, he said. 50-50 physical custody. Joint legal custody. We'll need to work out the logistics of transitions and... I'll do all the transitions, I said. I'll drop her off, pick her up. Sarah shouldn't have to see me more than necessary. Sarah's face crumpled. We spent 3 hours negotiating the details. Which holidays, which birthdays, who makes medical decisions, who makes educational decisions, what happens if one of us wants to move. Every possible scenario mapped out like a prenuptial agreement for parenthood. Patricia slid another document in front of me. Child support calculation. Based on our incomes, based on custody split, based on Oregon state guidelines. Given the 50-50 arrangement, Patricia said, child support will be minimal, essentially offsetting the income differential. Mr. Morrison will pay approximately $437 per month. $437, the price of being a divorced father. I signed everywhere Patricia pointed. Sarah signed everywhere David pointed. Robert witnessed, notarized, filed paperwork that would be processed by a judge we'd never meet. There's one more thing, Sarah said when the lawyers started packing their briefcases. She pulled an envelope from her bag, cream-colored, her handwriting on the front, sealed with actual wax, the stamp we'd use for our wedding invitations, our crest. 2 birds intertwined. She slid it across the table to me. Don't read it now, she said. Read it when Emma is born, not before. Promise me. Sarah, please just promise me. I picked up the envelope. It was heavier than it should have been, 3 pages inside, maybe more. I promise, I said. Patricia gathered our copies of the parenting plan. Sarah's lawyer did the same. Robert shook both our hands like we'd just closed a business deal, which I guess we had. In the parking lot, Sarah stopped me before I got to my car. We didn't leave, she said quietly. We just... Couldn't stay. The motif had changed, evolved. Her mother's rule about family didn't fit us anymore. We were building something different, something neither of our parents had a blueprint for. No, I said. We didn't leave. We just became a different kind of family. She nodded, got in her car, drove away. I put the envelope in my glove compartment, locked it, tried not to think about what it said. Sarah moved into a new apartment 3 weeks later. 2 bedrooms, one for her, one for Emma, closer to her work, farther from our old house, which we'd sold and split the proceeds. I set up Emma's room in my apartment, painted it a soft yellow, bought a crib and a changing table and a rocking chair, stood in the middle of the empty room and tried to imagine what it would be like when she was real, when she wasn't just ultrasound photos and DNA reports and legal documents. The envelope stayed in my glove compartment. I touched it sometimes when I was driving. Felt the wax seal press against my thumb. Our wedding crest. The last time she'd use it. Sarah was due December 8th. We'd chosen the name together, somehow. Emma Grace Morrison. Grace for Sarah's grandmother, Morrison for me. A name that worked for both of us, even though we'd never share a last name with her at the same time. The baby shower was awkward. Sarah's friends and family, my mom and sister, everyone trying to pretend this was normal, that co-parents could celebrate together, that divorce and babies could occupy the same space without everyone suffocating on the tension. I bought Emma a stuffed elephant, gray and soft with embroidered eyes. I gave it to Sarah at the shower. She held it against her chest and cried. Happy tears, I think. Or sad tears. I couldn't tell anymore. November passed. Sarah got bigger. I went to one more ultrasound, the final one at 36 weeks. Emma was head down, ready, perfect. The doctor said everything looked healthy. Any day now, the doctor said. Could be 2 weeks, could be 4. Babies come when they're ready. Sarah and I didn't talk much during that ultrasound, just watched the screen, watched our daughter move and stretch in a space that was getting too small for her. In the parking lot after, Sarah turned to me. Will you be there? She asked. When she's born? I know I don't have the right to ask, but I'll be there, I said. She's my daughter. Thank you. December 8th came and went. No labor, no baby. December 10th, nothing. December 12th. Sarah texted me at midnight. False alarm, contraction stopped, baby's just teasing me. December 14th, 4 a.m, my phone rang. Sarah. I answered before the second ring. It's time, she said. My water broke. Contractions are 5 minutes apart. I'm going to the hospital. I'll meet you there. I threw on clothes, grabbed my keys, started driving. Then I remembered the envelope. I pulled over, opened the glove compartment, stared at it. Don't read it now, Sarah had said. Read it when Emma is born. I put it in my jacket pocket, drove to the hospital with my heart in my throat. Labor lasted 13 hours. I sat in a chair in the corner of the delivery room, not holding Sarah's hand, not coaching her breathing, just there. Present but separate. Her mother was on the other side of the bed doing all the things I might have done if we were still married. The nurses kept asking me questions. Dad, can you grab more ice chips? Dad, can you hold her leg? They called me Dad, like it was my name now. At 6:23 in the morning, Emma Grace Morrison entered the world. 6 pounds, 8 ounces, 19 inches long, full head of dark hair, screaming like she was offended by the audacity of being born. The doctor placed her on Sarah's chest, skin to skin. That first moment. Sarah was sobbing. Happy tears this time, definitely happy tears. She's here, Sarah whispered. Emma, hi Emma, hi baby. The nurse looked at me. Dad, do you want to cut the cord? I walked over. The scissors were heavier than I expected. The cord was thick, tough. I cut where the nurse showed me, separated Emma from the only home she'd ever known. Then the nurse took Emma to clean her, weigh her, Do whatever nurses do to newborns. I followed, watched them measure and poke and wrap her in a hospital blanket with her name card attached. Baby girl Morrison. Daub. 12/14/2025. Time 06:23 m. Would you like to hold her, Dad? I held out my arms. The nurse placed Emma in them. She was so small, so impossibly small. Her eyes were closed. Her hand was curled into a tiny fist against her cheek. I looked at her face, really looked. She had Sarah's nose, my eyebrows, a chin that could have been either of ours. She was ours, not mine, not Sarah's, ours. Something broke open in my chest, not forgiveness, not reconciliation. Just pure, overwhelming love for a person I'd never met until this moment, but would die for without hesitation. I carried Emma back to Sarah, placed her in her mother's arms. Sarah looked at me. "Thank you," she whispered, "for being here, for being you." I nodded. Couldn't speak. Didn't trust my voice. The nurse put a plastic band on Emma's tiny wrist. Pink. Printed in block letters. Baby girl Morrison. Daub. 08/12/2025. Time 06:23. Am. Father James Morrison. Father James Morrison. 4 words that redefined everything. I stepped outside the delivery room, found a quiet corner in the hallway, pulled the envelope from my jacket pocket. The wax seal was still intact. I pressed my thumb against it one more time. Then I broke it. 3 pages, Sarah's handwriting, dated 3 months ago, the day we'd signed the custody agreement. I read, "James, if you're reading this, Emma is here. You're holding her, or you just held her, or you're about to. And I need you to know something before you become her father in the ways that matter more than DNA. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even forgive myself. What I did was unforgivable. I lied to you. I lied to Marcus. I lied to myself. I created a fantasy where I could have everything I wanted without consequences. And when reality crashed in, I tried to make you carry the weight of my choices. You asked me once if I loved Marcus. The truth is, I loved the version of myself I saw in his eyes. I loved feeling wanted, pursued, new. But that wasn't love. That was cowardice. I was too afraid to tell you I felt invisible, too afraid to do the work of making our marriage what it needed to be. So I looked for an escape instead of a solution. But this letter isn't an apology. You don't owe me forgiveness. I destroyed our marriage. I destroyed your trust. I destroyed the man you were before I told you the truth, and I'll carry that for the rest of my life. This letter is about Emma. She's going to grow up in 2 homes. She's going to have questions about why mommy and daddy don't live together. She's going to notice that other kids' parents are married and ours aren't. And when she's old enough to understand, she's going to find out what I did. I can't protect her from that truth. But you can protect her from what comes after. James, you have every right to be angry at me forever. You have every right to teach Emma that I'm the villain in our story. You have every right to make sure she knows what I did and how I hurt you. The courts would let you. Society would let you. Your own pain would let you. But here's what I'm asking. Not for me. For her. Don't. Forgiveness isn't for me. It's for her. Emma deserves a father who isn't poisoned by what I did. She deserves a father who can talk about her mother without bitterness in his voice. She deserves to love both of us without feeling like she has to choose sides. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm not asking you to trust me as a partner ever again. I'm asking you to heal for her, so that when she asks why we're not together, you can tell her the truth without destroying her image of love. You were a good husband. I was a bad wife. But we can both be good parents. So I'm setting you free from anger, not from responsibility, never from love, just from the weight of hating me. Because Emma will need you whole, and I already broke you once. You asked me if being the father means you have to be my husband. The answer is no. You get to choose who you are to me. But Emma doesn't get to choose. She only gets what we give her. This is the last gift I can give our daughter. A father who chose to heal. We didn't leave each other. Life just gave us a different family than we planned. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's enough. Love her more than you hate me. That's all I'm asking. Sarah. I read it 3 times. The paper felt official, heavy, like the DNA report, like evidence. But it wasn't evidence of betrayal. It was evidence of something I didn't have a word for: responsibility, sacrifice. A mother giving up her right to be forgiven so her daughter could have a whole father. I folded the letter carefully, put it back in the envelope with the broken seal. Then I walked back into the delivery room. Sarah was holding Emma, rocking her gently. The morning light was coming through the window. 6:47 a.m., sunrise. I read it, I said. Sarah looked up at me, waited. You're right, I said. About all of it. I sat in the chair next to the bed, not far away this corner, next to them. I'm going to heal, I said. Not for you, for her, because she deserves a father who can show her what love looks like, even when it's complicated, even when it's not romantic, even when it's just 2 broken people doing their best. Sarah was crying again, but softer this time, quieter. Thank you, she whispered. I stood up, walked to the window with Emma in my arms. The city was waking up. Cars on the street below. People starting their days. The world kept turning even when yours stopped. Emma made a small sound, not crying, just a gasp, like she was surprised to be here. I was too. We don't leave, I whispered to her, not to Sarah, to Emma. Your mom's family has this rule. We don't leave, and I'm going to teach you what that means. Not that you stay in bad situations, not that you accept betrayal, but that you don't leave the people who need you most, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when the family doesn't look like you planned. Behind me, Sarah was crying. I didn't turn around. I'm your dad, I told Emma, and that's not negotiable. That's not conditional. That's forever. You're stuck with me, through every mistake, through every hard conversation, through every complicated question about your mom and me. I'm not going anywhere. The hospital bracelet on her wrist was so small it would fit on my thumb. Father, James Morrison. 4 words that meant everything. The sun was fully up now, light streaming through the window, touching Emma's face. She opened her eyes, just for a second, and I saw Sarah's eyes looking back at me, but also mine. Both of us, neither of us, just her. Perfect. A nurse came in to take Emma for more tests. I handed her over. Sarah reached for my hand, not like before, not like we were together, just like we were 2 people who'd created something beautiful despite destroying everything else. We're going to be okay, I said, not to her, to both of us, to the co-parents we were about to become. Yeah, Sarah said. We are. The birth certificate was filed that afternoon. Emma Grace Morrison. Mother, Sarah Elizabeth Morrison. Father, James David Morrison. 2 parents who'd never be married again, but would be connected forever by the small person currently sleeping in a hospital bassinet. I took a photo of Emma with my phone, sent it to my parents, to my sister, to Derek. The caption was simple. Emma Grace, 6 lbs 8 oas, perfect. My sister texted back immediately. She's beautiful. How are you? I looked at Emma, at Sarah sleeping in the hospital bed, at the letter in my jacket pocket, at the sunrise still glowing through the window. Different, I texted back, but okay. Family isn't always what you expect. It's who shows up. Tell me about your found family, your chosen family, your complicated family, the one that didn't match the brochure but became home anyway. I'll be reading every story. The footprint certificate came later that day. 2 tiny feet pressed in ink onto cardstock. Official, permanent. Evidence that Emma Grace Morrison had been here, had arrived, had changed everything. I placed the footprint certificate in the folder with the DNA report, the torn envelope, the ultrasound photos, and the letter. Emma's origin story. Not a fairy tale, not a tragedy. Just the truth. Complicated, painful, beautiful, human. When Sarah and Emma came home 3 days later, I drove them to Sarah's apartment, helped carry the car seat inside, set up the bassinet, made sure Sarah had everything she needed. "Week 1 is yours," I said. "I'll pick her up next Friday at 6. Sarah nodded. "Okay." At the door, I turned back. "Sarah?" "Yeah." "Thank you for the letter. It was the hardest thing I've ever read, and the most generous." She smiled, sad but real. "Be a good dad, James. That's all the thanks I need." I drove home, to my one-bedroom apartment with Emma's yellow room waiting, to a life that looked nothing like I'd planned 7 months ago, to a future that was uncertain and co-parented and full of transitions and custody schedules, but also full of love, the kind that doesn't quit even when it should, the kind that shows up at 2 a.m., the kind that chooses healing over revenge, the kind that whispers, "We don't leave," to a baby at sunrise, the kind that's enough.